Aloha Kohala. It's 3 o'clock here on November 8th, 2023. You're listening to KNKRLP 96.1 FM Kohala. It is time for Intuitive Talk Story with Eila Allgood and
Michál Anna.
And we are so happy to be here today. It's gorgeous out there.
It is a beautiful day.
It's beautiful out and it's beautiful in, isn't it?
It is. And what is within is without. So that's kind of the whole gist of this story that we're in here. This Intuitive Talk Story show is kind of seeing what's inside, what's going on within us so that we can experience the best external out there.
And noticing what's out there, what's going on, because it's all connected.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
it is. It's all one thing, ain't it? So, yeah, awareness, a great word to start off the day. Awareness, that's a really big word. I was actually in a great talk about that the other day, in that awareness, just bringing your awareness to something, you automatically change it just by noticing it, right? You've already shifted it, which is really sometimes half the battle. Just to notice it, just getting yourself to see it. Once you've seen it, you can't really unsee it. You know, it's like the hole in the wall. Like, you didn't know it was there. You never noticed it. You're cool. It's not in your mind. But once you see the hole, now every time you
look away.
Every time you're like, oh, I got to get that hole fixed. I got to get there's a hole in the wall. I got to fix that. It's there and you know it. And it becomes something to deal with, right?
Well, and I truly feel this is why people stay in situations, because they don't want to see
the
whatever
hole in the
it
wall.
is. And I remember going to a therapist a long, long time ago, and I went about one thing, and then I left. And then I went back years later, and he said, "How come you left?" I said, "I don't know. I didn't want to go anymore." But in between that time, I got divorced. And it's like I didn't want to know that might be coming up, like there was a problem in my marriage at the time, like I didn't want to see it. So if I stayed with him, I might have had to look at something that I wasn't
ready to look at.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, once we see something, then you can't, like you say, you can't unsee it, and it may mean you're going to do something about it.
Well, you bring up a great point. So there's awareness, but then there's timing.
Yeah.
And timing is everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we aren't always ready to receive something at a particular moment. And then we got, with that one, I'd like to say, and don't beat yourself up.
Yes.
Because we're all receiving exactly what you need when you need it. So we're all on our own hike, our own journey. There's no right way. There's no, this is the only route. There's tons of routes to the top of the mountain. We're all on our own journey. And so we just give thanks that we get it when we get it. And for me, I know that I'm like a lot of things. And I'm like, oh my God, like I cannot believe it feels so, some of them feel like so simple once you understand it, right? As soon as you understand something, and it immediately becomes simple, and you think, I can't believe it took me this long. Has that ever happened to you?
Of course.
And so
many times.
Right, because we're in a period we are actually remembering. So once you do know it, it's like the hole in the wall. Like, I can't believe I didn't notice it. It's been sitting there right in front of my face the whole time.
But it wasn't time yet to see the hole in the wall.
Right. So that's my point, is that you're not acknowledging that feeling we tend to do.
Yeah.
So no, exactly. It wasn't my time. I give myself the compassion that I'm seeing everything exactly when I need to. And now I do know about the hole, and great, now I'll fix it. Perfect. It's actually awesome.
Or not. Or you won't fix it.
Or not.
I mean, it's always free.
Live with the hole in the wall.
Free choice if you're going to live
that
with
would
the
be
hole in the wall.
difficult for me personally. I tend to be someone who wants to fix things. So I'm solution oriented in general. And I'm kind of like, if you come to me with a problem. Good to know about
yourself.
Yeah. If you come to me with a problem and you don't tell, it's best, if you don't want me to help you, it's best to tell me, just listen. Like, I don't want any help. I just want to be heard.
Yeah.
Because I'll probably try to help you solve it. Because I'm all about solutions. Like, well, let's get to the bottom of this and let's solve it. Like,
that's so. As an extrovert, sometimes I need to just talk about things because I can't just think them through. I need to say it out loud. And I'm married to someone who loves to solve problems. And it took me years before I could say, because I didn't realize it, hey, I just need you to listen. You don't even need to think about this. I don't need any solutions. It's just needs to come out because I'll get to whatever solution if there is one. And, it's good to know what you need, the type of person that you are.
Really important.
Yeah.
And that comes into understanding that we're all different. So we have I'm making a little list here of awareness, timing, and then we have diversity, like acknowledging that we're in the frame, we are unified, but we're all so unique in our experience of this journey. So everyone's experience is valid. So validation, in that we're all validated to have the experience that we're having. There's no well, that's wrong. That's not true. If you've experienced it, that's your experience. And that's really all we actually know anyway, is our experience. And that's the other thing that really comes up big for me this week. There's a lot of deep fakes out there, a lot of things going now. Everything's going online. People can make voices. They can imitate
The whole AI thing. Yeah.
They could do a show on us, Eila, and if they
we wouldn't even
imitate
be
us,
there.
we wouldn't even know it.
Yeah.
They could pawn themselves off as us. And so people are doing that kind of stuff. And I have to say, I actually tried. There was this crypto thing, I checked it out and told my crypto friend to check it out. Can you see what this is? I didn't do the whole thing, but I'm it looked good, right? And then he went through it and he goes, this is sleek, high skill, deep fake scam. And he goes, it was so good. It got my $225. Oh,
wow.
Snap.
Yeah.
But he did the due diligence for all of us. We're thank you for your sacrifice. But just to say out there, things are imposters. Things are not what they seem. So don't believe everything you see on the television or hear on the computer, or people are telling you about the world. I was talking to a dear friend who has family in the Ukraine, and I said, for instance, you can tell me things about what's going on, and I can hear that from you, but I still don't know it.
Right.
I don't know that, and you don't know it either because you're not there either. We don't know. We can only process what we're being given.
Right, which is through somebody else's from someone else's perspective and with their perception. So you could talk to 10 different people in the Ukraine and get 10 different stories about what's going on.
Just like when there's a bank robbery, that's why they do interview everybody, because you get 10 different stories and you come up with the thread of the real deal. What actually happened here?
What's really going on?
And then 10 different sketches, and you get the right guy. Because they're he was 6 foot, and then he ends up being 5'4". Because they're scared. You see things differently when you have filters going. If you're in fear, someone could look like he was huge. He was so big.
And he turned out to be a
little guy. I don't know.
A female, a 5'2" female, because the person was projecting it would be a man. Yeah.
Yeah. So that can get really
so
fun and
when you're
interesting.
talking about the deep fakes and stuff, I'm usually very trusting of what I read and what I see. And I've been researching a lot about the scalar technology, and I come across something and I'm like, wow, that sounds awesome. And then I'm like, maybe a little too awesome. You need to really research it. Don't just believe it and pay the $225.
Sure.
Because this is the quick thing to do. No, you need to keep doing your
due
own
diligence.
Your own research. And
that brings up trusting ourselves.
Yeah.
So trusting yourself, and this is back to why we cut cords, why we sever agreements, because you're trusting your own information. I can read this thing, or Eila can tell me all about such and such, but ultimately I just want to receive it. Okay, cool. A piece of paper, oh, interesting. I'll read it and take this information and oh, this is Eila's opinion on this, and this is so-and-so's. That's interesting. I like that. I can see it and maybe connect to some of it. And I kind of feel that way too, but I'm putting it against my own information, my own source connection, and I'm staying centered in that. I'm not connecting into their information. I'm just having fun communing with the information, which is more of a cooperative, concept-based way of thinking, which really gets into, and I've realized it in this, we've talked about this before, this gets into a higher level of communication where we're out of taking things personal. Because if we're still taking things personal in programming, then we tend to not be able to have real neutral, on the table conversations. And that's really what we want to be able to do, is look at something on the table and it's just this cool neutral concept you and I are talking about. And we have our own total connection and it's just cool. Oh, that's fun. That's
Interesting.
It's interesting. We're curious. Back to that.
And the checking in, checking in intuitively. Is this resonating with me, or is it not clear? Okay, maybe it's not clear. So if I want to pursue it, I'm going to do some more research. I'm going to read some more. I'm going to ask more people about it. Yeah.
And then putting it back up against yourself. And does that feel good? Does that feel right to me? Is that all really resonating? And now I'm getting enough information to maybe validate my own understanding that makes me feel good about it. Then I can make that really, decision based in some real heart and head thought, coherence between my mind and my heart. So that's what I hear you saying, is don't just trust, I feel it, I want to do it. But at the same time, you don't just want to trust what they tell you either, and just what my mind says. It's 80% of the people check out to be good. We don't want to go on that either.
Right.
So we have to use this heart and head coherence, which is again what we keep talking about in the left and right brain, and kind of what we even started out something today. Oh, that gets into that expanding our consciousness. So But so anyway, heart and mind coherence, having that heart and mind connection is really, I think, a core for that.
It's super important, and I don't think I would have gotten through the pandemic without it, because what I was hearing in my head and what I was being told from many sources wasn't aligning with what I was feeling, what was going on, and what I wanted to do for my own body with the whole vaccine thing. And that was hard. So I kept doing my due diligence. I kept, okay, well, let me ask this person. Here's somebody who I'll just explore them, and they may have a totally different opinion than me, but I want to listen to that, because I was open to hear all of it, not just take what I was told from one source and say, here, this is what you're going to do. No, that doesn't feel right to me. So just keep doing my research. And I think a lot of us did that through that time, to get the best information that we could from within and without.
Right. And trusting yourself. And if you're someone who didn't trust yourself and feel like you want to trust yourself, well, there's still time to do so.
Yeah.
Like, just trust yourself today.
Yes.
And choose, like, right, I'm going to listen to myself, my heart, and what my real spirit feels like. You know what? I don't have to just do what the memo tells me, whatever that is, in whatever framework. It's like, we don't just have to do what we're told. This kind of Western society has really trained people to do what they're told. You were trained to sit in the classroom for so many hours. You were trained to sit down and shut up. You were trained to do many things. So there's a lot of untraining going on here to realize you can be your expressive, amazing, dynamic, co-creative being that each and every one of us is. And that isness is really, it's in being our dynamic, that we're all superheroes, we're all co-creators, we're all special. All of us are unified in our unique specialness. But then we each have a different facet, but everyone's amazing. And so we're helping each other to become more amazing and to peel the layers. Like I've said since I was 19, am I nothing but a transparent onion peeling away the layers to reveal the brilliancy of that which rests within?
I was watching a program about how children develop as they get to be 5 and 6. They lose a lot of that connection to spirit because they get involved with peers. And it said that, you said the word superhero, that by 10, they're now mimicking Wonder Woman and Batman and Superman, where when they were 3 and 4, they were those. They didn't need that external. They already believed that.
Ooh, I love that you bring this up. So one of the inversions I'd love to throw out there to think about is we were the superhero. That was part of the inversion, this whole power thing, which is what that teaches. And a lot of the models of the movies and what you see out there, they might be expressing these cool concepts of light and dark. Problem is, they keep you there in duality. They don't ever get you to unity. They keep doing this fight between good and evil, and which keeps you
There's
stuck
always
on that section.
Yeah.
Right. So when we expand out, and we're just
talking about expanding.
No,
No.
The thing before.
Superhero.
Yes. Sorry, I just went poof. And so the superhero thing is that we are actually releasing. You may have already been a superhero, and how that works is it's a archetype. I was talking with someone and they're like, how could, so many people have had I've been Cleopatra or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
because it's an archetype, it's like a program that gets inserted and you play it out. So Cleopatra, you're experiencing that. So is so-and-so over there, so-and-so over there in their little bubbles of worlds
Yeah.
in programming. Maybe not the actual story. It's more of a concept, back to concepts.
Mm-hmm.
These are experiential concepts. I know that's a bit abstract. However, my point is that programs are archetypal. So it's really like maybe I played out the Athena program. Maybe I played out the Superman program.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's when we're dressing up like that, we're trying on those programs and we're saying that we need to be something else in order to be magnificent, which
Right.
we do not. We already are magnificent. So the lie there is that become Superman so that you can be something, but you already are, quote unquote, Superman,
Yeah.
just as, Adam or, Bob or
Right.
Musa or whoever, Keone. So we're whatever we are already, we're already that. And it's understanding that and peeling the layers of what we thought we needed and what we thought we are to release siphons, which are things sucking from us, like a siphon, it sucks something out, cords and siphons, honestly, just pulling power from your vessel. So we are in, because the other thing about superhero thing, right? It brings back hierarchy. See, it stays in hierarchy, and that's pretty much the ultimate sign of that you're still in duality is if you're resonating hierarchy. If there's hierarchy there, it's duality. And now you're in a bi-wave system. And a bi-wave system is a closed system, and that still keeps you in the field of three-dimensional thinking. In order to move out of that, we have to jump out of that into a tri-wave system where there's that third circle, and we go up into unity, and we see that we don't have to swing on the pendulum back and forth, but we can rise up and just go, oh, it is what it is. Thanks and praise. We go around the circle because it's all one thing.
And if you're, I just happened to be watching Carolyn Meese today before I came here. That's my relaxation. And she was talking about archetypes. So if you're out there and you're like, what is she talking about with the archetypes? Look up the word archetype. There's many people. Carolyn Meese has been around forever. And she's kind of funny because she's someone that kind of just tells it like it is. She doesn't sugarcoat it.
Gosh, I love her already.
And she's older than me, so she's been doing it a long time. And I like that about her. You're not wondering she's not like new agey and kind of, and everything's beautiful and No. She's got that gruff voice, and she's like, yeah, this is the way it is.
Beautiful. I'm a little like that myself.
So before we were talking about intuition, and it brought up something that I noticed in my own life. Many years ago, I was very developed on my upper chakras. I was spending a lot of time in spirit, and I trusted my intuition implicitly. And that was lovely and beautiful. And I was also going through a lot of emotional stuff, and I was learning a lot about my emotions. And sometimes I was telling myself that this path A was the correct path because intuitively it was the right path, but it was really more my emotions that wanted it to be that path. Mm-hmm. So I think as we evolve and as we grow, knowing the difference between this is a gut feeling, I need to go here, I need to do this, versus I'm getting excited about it, or I don't know, whatever that it's really more emotional driven than intuitive driven. And I do feel that comes from practice and paying attention to the nuances of what's different in that.
I really agree with that. And it brings up a big word of surrender. Surrender. That has been so paramount for me, and especially in this last cycle. And I think this last death, rebirth, spiraling up that we're really doing, and kind of this is a continuation of that kind of conversation here, is that we're dying to old things and surrendering to what I've, in order for me in my journey, I can attest from my own experience, everything I thought I wanted to have, I've had to surrender. I mean, like, but I wanted that. I can't even have that. No, fine. I let go of that too. And sometimes it feels like that. I'm like, oh, and it takes all I have to just surrender to God and go, okay, I give it up, because you realize this whole thing is a game. This whole thing is a template. The entire thing is not what you think. It's not what we think it is. And when we realize that, then you kind of have to take your mind. This goes back to going wide and taking your mind wide, because if you look at like the speck on the, on the table, like this lid, it's a mess, it's dirty. This thing right here, it's so, but I'm just concentrating on that. You open your spectrum and you realize that lid's just sitting on a counter in a whole room full of a whole lot of other things. Oh, I guess it's not that big a deal. It's so perspective and widening that perspective so that we can surrender our human desire is what that is. It's really it's what the classic story is. What, Eila, you want one of these, the baubles, the shiny things? That's what the world is doing. Do you want this? You want that? A desire? You want is, hey, baby, from sex to drugs to rock and roll to the whole gamut.
To all the
whole
stuff.
thing is about desire.
Right.
So it is about giving up your quote unquote desire and what you think you need to understand that you already are all of it. You already have it. See, that's the biggest thing difference. It's not like, well, I don't get to have it. Well, you don't get to have it if you need it so badly. That's the hilarious joke. If you need it, you don't get to have it. Once you don't need it, hey, you might get to have it. And that's how this place works. So the more you let go, the more you get to have. The more you surrender and you just go from your heart, and you're like, you do it with a glad heart, right? Like, not because I'm getting anything, not because I'm leveling up. It's because I do it with a glad heart, and I surrender and I humble myself to source. That's like our commitment, really, is that I humble myself to God. That's the commitment. It's not a fancy path. It's not fancy in that way. In fact, you're like, gosh, actually, you don't get nothing. And then no one's going to, and a lot of people don't even like resonate. They don't even understand you now, or the more you let go, the more people are like, you're crazy or whatever, and so it is like really a coming home to your own heart, to your own essence, to your own love, to the Holy Mother, the Holy Mother and Father that holds us, to welcome it back into this grid, into ourselves. Because as we have made choices to incarnate into this earth template, we have the power to change it by making choices and awakening within these vessels at this level incarnate. See, then we can change it. Things that are not incarnate can't change it. They're not in, you don't have a power control. You do. We all do. We are all here. We can affect what goes on because we are co-creating it. We're co-collectively creating this amazing story. And at the same time, you are experiencing your own private vibrational movie.
Absolutely. That reminds me of, I had these two friends years ago when I was in my 20s, and the one friend was rather materialistic. She picked her boyfriend, who she wound up getting married to, because of the car he drove. And the other friend wasn't materialistic at all, really didn't care about that stuff, and wound up connecting with, wound up having a lot of stuff. So, and friend one who didn't get the stuff was mad at friend two because friend two got the stuff, didn't even care that she got the stuff. And I think that's
totally it.
Yeah.
It's really about not caring that you got the stuff.
It's like
stuff
nice.
Doesn't matter.
Right. The stuff was to friend two.
Grateful.
It was she had gratitude, and she was thinking about how she was going to help people with the stuff that she got. And friend one was still mad that she didn't get it.
And you bring up so this gets into victimizer again, and kind of this program that's really up. Everybody, peel away your victimizer programming. Don't play the blame game. You don't want to do that no more.
Yeah.
You don't want to blame and be blamed and feel bad and all that just jazz.
Yeah.
We don't need to do that no longer.
No.
And that's a
part
lot of that, right?
That's part of the spiraling up, is to release that.
That's right.
Yeah. Feeling bad about what you don't have or you didn't get, or, any of that. It's being in gratitude, because when you go to gratitude and you're in that attitude of gratitude, I love that expression, you're in an attitude of gratitude, it's really tough to be annoyed with nonsense because you're at that higher vibration, you're at that higher frequency, and blame and victim, they're somewhere else. They're not on your scale.
Which reminds me of a client and I were talking this week, and they were, it was a woman who was talking to us about someone that was annoying them. Like, oh my gosh, they just keep activating this one pattern, of not feeling, like they just feel so a certain way, like they, kind of complaining about a pattern.
Yeah.
And then as they were talking to me, I was reaching into that and thought, oh no, they're not going to want to hear this. And here's the hot tip on the fine tunes here as it gets more tricky, is that it's all you. You're all we're all in our own game. So anything in front of you is still you. So as this person was talking to me, I thought, and they were complaining about kind of what that person does, I was seeing a flash of real of the things they do and their own fear. Like they were kind of saying the person's coming from this and they are feeling their own thing of that. So it's expressing, that's the mirror. So whatever's right in front of you, we want to blame it or be like, God, if only they wouldn't, if those people would stop. That's the victimizer part of that. And it's because of something actually that I'm still holding on to, right? Or still inside of me. I still have fear in there. It's so deep. She couldn't see it, so it still has to be reflected around you. And that's part of paying attention back to awareness, being aware of why is this actually showing up in my journey? There's always a reason. Nothing's just there. It's like all has kind of a little bit of purpose. So you're like, ooh, what was that about? It's always doing something to show you something. So if you play your game diligently and you're playing the game to win it, you're on your own journey and you're just like, dun, dun. You're in an arcade game, dun, 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 dun. And it's just like leveling. You're focusing on playing your own game and that leveling up, which is being about really surrender. So in order to level up, it means I surrender to the heart of God. I let go of what I think I need, and I'm willing to get out of this place in whatever form and like save Jumanji and like go home kind of thing. I'm willing to do that. And that's what I'm really saying. And so when you play the game like that, now you're going, ooh, every time. And this is where you use the pearls, you pay attention. Joe Smo, starts talking and I'm like, oh, he's bugging me. Right then you're like, excuse me, Joe, go to the bathroom. Bathrooms of the world, that's your office. Go there and quickly put your hands on your body and find out, ooh, what am I feeling? Why am I getting so annoyed? What's really going on inside of me, inner self? And talk to that inner you and find it, breathe it, be it, change it. Because now you're doing something to be proactive and that movie doesn't have to keep playing. Because your other option is, oh, I'm so sick of this person. I wish they'd stop. Which only does what? Creates more of it. Because the more you don't want it, the more you're going to get it.
Absolutely.
And the more you let it go, the more you'll be at peace. So back to that, if you let things go, like your friend, she got to have prosperity because she wasn't attached to the prosperity.
Right.
And the other person who was attached to the prosperity couldn't have the prosperity because they were so attached to it. And then they even blamed someone else instead of taking responsibility for their own
they went
attachment.
into that. The friend A went into the lower frequencies, jealousy
Envy,
and blame and victim and how come
What about me? I
what
did
about
everything
me?
I should have had.
I'm a good
I
person.
did it right. Well, what do you do?
Is she better
All
than me
that,
because
right.
she?
And then I'm not good enough. See?
Yes.
I'm not a good enough, and that comes with I don't
Yes.
deserve to have prosperity. Somewhere in her framework,
Right.
I would say, just if I was listening to that, I would say, oh, maybe working on your money self. Like, do I really believe?
It's really about deserve.
Do I really believe that I deserve prosperity and happiness?
Right.
Do I deserve that? Do I feel that? If I'm like, no, I don't really believe I deserve it. I'm not really worthy. I'm not really good enough.
And
If
this
that
was
voice
someone
starts
that
coming
had a
up,
very strong, I'm not good enough
see there.
going on under
So
there.
that would create that. So if she was doing the work, she would then go, oh, I'm feeling I'm not good enough. And then she'd grab
Right.
it and go, oh, that's my thing. Actually, I'm good enough. I'm worthy. And you know what? I could have that also. And give thanks for Susie Q having it. I'm so grateful. She has it and I can have it. Woo, we're all having it. Let's all be having it together.
Well, you know what? Let's take a station break because it's about halftime, and then we'll come back and we'll keep going.
Sounds good.
All right. We'll be right back. Hang on, everyone.
Because of you, there's a song in my heart.
That's right, Kohala. There is a song in my heart, and it's thanks to KNKR. I love doing my show, Women's Voices. Please tune in every Wednesday from 4 to 6 p.m. You can catch it on your radio at 96.1, or you can go stream it at knkr.org.
Because of you, the sun will shine. The moon and stars will make you mine.
Number 5's High Wall, Nishimura Bay, Lumber Yard. All of these are place names that are Mahu Kona. Join Keone Emiliano when he talks story about the history of Mahu Kona every Wednesday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the old railway station down at Mahu Kona. Mahu Kona is a former settlement on the island of Hawaii and was the terminus of the Hawaiian Railroad. This series is being sponsored by the Hawaii Island Land Trust, dedicated to preserving the history and the important places of our island home. You can find more information on this and other events at hilt.org. Please join Keone Emiliano Wednesdays 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the old railway station down in Mahu Kona. Enjoy the stories of our community. See you there.
Aloha, welcome back to KNKR LP 96.1 FM Kohala. This is Intuitive Talk Story with Eila Allgood and
Michál Anna.
And we were just strategizing where we're going next, and it wasn't. It's all good. Anyway, a word came up for me when we were talking before. The word is leadership, and it came up for me more as a question about, like, I know I have a lot of leadership in my chart, my astrological chart, and I'm like, well, what is that? Does that mean I need to keep planning things and doing big things because that's what leaders do? And so it's kind of, as we're talking about, you know, letting go and surrendering, you know, to me, where do those two words come together? Leadership and surrender.
Ooh, I got some.
What do you got?
Girl.
What do you got for
This
that,
has been
honey?
a hot topic this week too. I love that these are so aligned. So this comes into our shift out of our old 3D leadership model,
Yes.
which is top-down model.
Yes.
And a 5D compassionate model is, so if you just have the pyramid, we use that triangle structure.
Right.
You know, we typically think of in a hierarchical system, well, there's the president and he runs the show, you know, and he's on top. And that's what we normally think of as leadership. So I'm again going to flip the script, and I'm going to give some props to my papa right now, Mr. Raymond Jude Carrillo, because he taught me this long ago, and he's been an amazing leader himself in many ways. And that he said, true leadership, honey, is not about that. It's the other way around. You take that triangle, you flip it upside down, and the real leader is holding everybody up and empowering them to reach their dreams. That's a real leader, which is a very different model. So you're actually a lot on the bottom. So I myself have tried to kind of live this myself. I feel like I've always like kind of marveled, I've run my own businesses and such, and everyone else gets to do work trade. Not me. I mean, I work. I'm on the bottom. The bottom. It's my thing. I'm the one running it. And so I work the most, right? I work the most and lift other people up, right? That's what ends up happening a lot of times, right? And but not in a negative way, but in a way of we empower each other. So to me, true leadership is about reaching into what do you need to be successful and empowering another person to activate their highest and best self to create the life they'd like to live. If I'm helping you do that, then whatever we're doing is going to be blessed because you're going to be in alignment with your soul purpose and you're going to feel passion and grace. And that's kind of like what I do. I do spiritual guidance, helping people understand their world, what they're doing, often in, weekly sessions on the phone or in person, helping people to navigate those things and peel things away and then really show up as your best self. So I like to teach that leadership is about building lighthouses, and that is really being lights for one another and about empowering each other.
Right. And then it doesn't really matter where the light, when you look out and everything's bright and light, it isn't about who's the brightest light. It's about just
Exactly.
creating that illumination everywhere.
Well, you realize that
Yes.
you don't own the light and you're just
Yeah.
glad it's brighter. You're just like, great, more light. Awesome. And that's actually
Yeah.
what you want. You don't want to own the light because you want, and more like if I give it to Joe and then he goes way over there and shines it. Great.
Great.
Awesome. We're getting somewhere now.
Yes.
Everybody go shine your light. We don't, it's not all on me. We're all together shining our lights because back to unity, we've left a hierarchical system. We're not doing a level hierarchical system. We're in a unified, equal field in the realm of uniqueness and diversity. So we're unified and we are equal, but we are diverse and unique. None of us are the same. None of us have the same gifts. We all have different time put in, things we've gotten good at, things we've studied, etc. That would be kind of like your niche, but that doesn't make you better than or worse than. It's just curiosity and cool. And what's your
Right.
cool thing, angelic human?
Yeah, and it changes in the moment too. One of the things I learned back when I took a leadership program was the ability to lead from the back of the room, and that is really about holding space. So there's someone up there and they're giving a talk on blah blah blah, and you're back there. Nobody knows you're there. They don't even see you back there, and you're focused on the energy of that space, so that person who's going blah 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 and all those people can get the greatest benefit from that process.
Okay, now this is something I've spent a lot of time doing because I've taught children.
Yeah.
And I've had children perform.
Yeah.
And I'm often at the back of the room, literally doing choreography with my hands,
Yes.
small, and signaling them. So just in case they need it, they'll look at me. I'm in the back. No one knows I'm there. I'm also doing what you're talking. I'm holding
Yes.
the energy. I'm always set energy. Everything I do, I'm doing that stuff. And it's a really fun thing to do. And the magnitude, and that's just to say to everybody, we are all so beautifully. Not the word powerful, but powerful and a beautiful, co-creative, humble way.
Yeah.
Just that there's so much infinite love to pull from that all of us can create together, and there's enough for everyone. There's not like a lack of anything. So it's not like, well, if Joe does it, then didn't do enough of it. No, it just makes more for everyone and everything. There's nothing like that I have to do better than or whatever. It's just like, great, she did it. I actually love so much in my life. I have ideas and I just put them out in the field. And then literally it shows up, someone's doing it. I'm like, perfect. I didn't have time to do that. I mean, I can't do everything I think of.
Right,
Come on, I think of a
exactly.
lot of things.
Yeah.
So, that first time that happened was
That's
I
not
really
being
noticed
attached.
it. Yeah, it was when I was a child. Well, I was a teenager, and wouldn't it be the coolest thing if there was a teen dance club at the top of our road, like up at,
Yeah.
literally a year later, one opened.
Yeah.
It was there
Yeah.
for only a year and a half, and then poof, gone.
Gone. Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, later on, I thought, I manifested that place. Your thoughts, you're creating all the time. So we don't have to own any, and that's open source, baby. Keep it all open source, unattached and amused. It's here for all of us. The more, the merrier.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the opposite of the competition concept and lack. And when we talked about awareness earlier, the first word I wrote down was manifestation. Because when you are more aware, to me, you become aware of the ability to manifest, that you can put things out in the universe, you can ask for something, and then you let it go. And if it's in the greatest and highest good of everybody, it shows up. And if not, okay.
You gotta love that classic American statement: if you love something, set it free. If it
Yeah.
comes back to you, it was meant to be.
Yeah.
If not, it was never meant
Yeah,
to be
it
at
wasn't
all.
for you.
It wasn't for you.
Right.
And what you've done, sometimes it's not even that it wasn't meant to be. It's that you did your part. and now you're just done. Like, you might have thought I was supposed to do a whole story here, but this was all I was actually supposed to do, and I accomplished my mission. Sometimes you're actually just done, and there's nothing more here, and we get to move forward into a new journey, a new chapter. So remembering that you're on this adventure, and that kind of is like unattached and amused, being aware of the energies. If you're learning still, you're in the right place. That's kind of how I am for myself. If I felt in my life when I have felt like I'm not learning anything, or I'm not feeling at peace, or I feel like there's something I need to go get, or I'm feeling any of that energy, but before it was, it's because I was ready to learn something different. I needed different reflections around me. I need to spend time in a different thing, understanding something different. And, I myself am stubborn. And so I took myself around the world looking for all my stuff. And, and it's kind of the Sid Hartha story. Like, I went everywhere, and then it's just right back here in my own self.
Yeah.
Right here in my own heart
Yeah.
is where everything is. But we feel called deeply, and we feel restless when we are still needing reflections to reflect to us these things we talked about. Like, I need to see it so I don't feel that angst. And what I'm really loving is that after traveling and going all over for so many years, not that I won't travel again, I hope to, I love traveling, but I'm really feel so at peace in going nowhere. I feel so at peace and enlivened, and so gratified by just the experience of breathing through my day. It feels so alive, and I feel so fulfilled just in that. Like, I'm like, I don't really need anything.
Don't need that kind of an adventure.
Yeah.
You're finding the adventure in your own moments.
Right. And that's what I'm imparting with these tools, is to find your own adventure in your own moment and feel filled up in yourself, so that you're not out there looking to get something. You're actually already full. That's why we do the tools. You disconnect from everything, bring into your awareness, come into your own fill the cup. And then you go cruising around. You're not trying to get anything, or it doesn't become that courting situation. You're just enjoying, communing, being one with, and cooperation, which is a very different model than giving and getting, right?
Right. Absolutely. So one of the things we were going to talk about was the whole expanding consciousness, and what does expansion feel like? What does it look like?
So someone asked you that, right?
Yeah, because I said that I wanted to experience more. I wanted to expand my consciousness more. I don't know. Maybe I just like the way it sounds.
So what do you feel when you say that? When you said you didn't really have an answer, right? When you
No,
said,
no, I don't.
How do you know? What was the question?
Yeah.
How do you know when you've expanded your consciousness?
Right. What does it feel like? So maybe I have some preconceived notion of what that's going to be. And one of the words that came up for me was perfection. Looking for perfection, looking for my life to be more perfect, that I'm not bumping into walls. And so intuitively, I know that's not it, but it's only through the exploration of it that I can find out what it is or it isn't. Or maybe I don't even want to ask that question anymore.
So that totally brings up, right, what is it? Are we focused on the left brain aspect, which is kind of more of a quantitative qualification? Well, how many people did you serve? Where did you get there? And where's your destination?
Yeah.
Did you get there on time? Or is it about the journey? So is it about the journey, or is it about the destination? So for me, as I expand and will continue to expand my consciousness, for me, I actually have the opposite feeling. I feel a feeling of freedom, because I feel like, wow, the more I understand, the more I realize how complex, big, huge, vast, totally intense, complicated, bigger than I can possibly even conceptualize in this little brain and body, how big it is. So then I feel really free, because I feel like, it is so big. How would I possibly know anything?
Like how could my human mind
even
understand?
comprehend? You know what? It's great that I know anything at all. I don't need to know anything. I should just listen and hang out. I mean, geez, it feels more like that, like a weight off my shoulder. Like, oh, there's no need to ever be perfect. Look at this. It's huge. Oh, it's so big. You're never going to be perfect. I mean, this is it's lifetimes and lifetimes of interesting expansion and interesting games, because you have to remember this. What is any of all this? Well, if it's just God and you believe in unity, and you believe that there's only one thing and there's only one God, well, then what is everything? It's just God dreaming of itself, because I was just sitting by myself and I decided I'm gonna have I just don't want to sit here forever in nothingness, so I'll just dream a little dream with myself. So I dream up this whole thing. So obviously it's about my journey because I'm dreaming and I want to experience the dream. Otherwise I just wake up and sit here in darkness by myself again.
Okay, and
Did you get?
yeah,
that
yeah,
make
no,
sense?
no, I agree with you. And as you were talking, I was seeing all of these, like the biggest puzzle in the world, and each of us are one piece. So no matter how much I think I'm expanding, I can only expand as much as everybody else is expanding because we're all in this together. It's not about who's expanding more or who's doing more or who's working harder. It's just about, what am I doing? Am I doing my work?
Right. Well, if you're thinking about who's doing something, you're still in duality.
Right.
So again, where are you leaping from? So if you're leaping from a plane of unity, like I want to live in unity, then see, and that's what I love, things like a core phrases, because like what you just said, the second you go, well, I believe it's all one. Well, then everything you just said it can't be possible. Then I can't compare anybody to anything because it's all one. So that's all out the window. So
Yeah.
you take like something that's a truth, and the second you put a thought against it, you're like,
That doesn't
then
line
it
up.
doesn't line
Yeah.
up, so it must not be real. Boom, out the door. So we release all that to realize that we're just here in this expanded format, that it is about the journey and experiencing it, and it's so far to go. Like really, we're at the bottom of the barrel in energetics. We're like in the lowest.
I don't know. It
fragment.
feels better than the 1300s might have been. I don't
What
know.
I mean, well, yeah, I don't mean like, I just mean energetically speaking of what we can as souls
Oh,
spiritually
sure.
be.
I don't know.
I believe that
Yeah.
we are so much more and have like that we're like kind of expand, like the earth itself is a living Christos, Christ Sophia being. Like you could become an earth someday, Eila. Maybe you are, you know what I'm saying? Like it's this feeling
could
that
be a
anything
globe.
is possible.
I could be a globe. I wonder if I could eat ice cream when I become a globe.
Funny that you call it a globe,
A globe.
but maybe
An
it's
orb.
not a globe.
The next Earth.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Anyway,
could be a hexagon. I don't know.
I don't really know. All I know is that it's fun to conceptualize and be curious, because when we get locked into any thought frame and we think we know something, we tend to lose. So I like to stay curious and be in the state of unknowing. So I also love to just put my mind in thinking about things that I think I understand, but just like put it out there, like something you think you already know about, oh yeah, going to space or whatever, and just go, forget I even know anything about it. Let me just like take a whole different, like somebody else's totally different viewpoint and kind of just try it on and experience what they're experiencing and see what they think about it, for curiosity, just to understand another
Right.
version of what's possible
Trying on somebody else's perspective.
without taking it on. So
Yes.
when I
No,
say
you
that, I
just-
don't mean like
yeah.
put it on yourself and now I'm not. I just mean being able to see from different eyes. And that goes back to putting I started in the beginning talking about putting a concept on the table, being able to talk about it neutrally, is being able to see different perspectives, which we have to come from curiosity to do that, because it's like, I'm not pushing my point. Like if you think something different, I'm like, well, no, Eila, it has to be this. It's just like, oh, that's interesting that you experienced it that way and I experienced it this way. Both are valid.
The key is to be able to listen to the other person. In this instance, what we're talking about, you're listening and you're not making any judgments and you're not saying what this person says negates what you say. There's no competition. It's listening to that person and that's it. And you don't know where that's going to go. And that's, that can be a challenge to do that, to listen, without the judgment, and see what develops from that.
Well, if you're doing that, you're now not hitting wound. See, now you're not taking something personal. Back to the 4 agreements. Take nothing personal. Make no assumptions. Be impeccable with your word. Always do your best. If you're doing those 4 things, you're really winning the game, because that means you're having neutral conversations. If you're not taking something personal and you're not making assumptions, that means you're just listening. and you're not putting it up against yourself. And most of the time, people are comparing themselves to whatever they're having a conversation with, especially if it's somebody that's similar to you. Let's say you're both, carpenters, or you're both, fishermen. He's like, well, check out my boat. You're like, oh, and I have a boat, So then I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, nice boat. And he's like, yeah, I just shine the thing. Like, I should really shine mine.
Yeah.
And you're like, I just polished the window. God, I need to get new windows. You're thinking about all your own stuff, which is like, instead put that aside. And it's especially hard when, well, you have a boat too, so it's hard to do.
Yeah.
But you put it aside and just relish in Bob's
Just
boat.
enjoy
Just enjoy Bob
the
and his
moment.
experience of his boat and
Yeah.
what he's off showing you, and just be, wow, that's really cool you did that. I might glean some ideas for my project because I'm curious, and hey, I love good ideas, and I am going to redo those windows, so I might as well glean a little from Bob. He just did it. But I'm not thinking like, oh man, I should be doing. It's more like, oh, fun. Ooh, that's a great idea. Oh, I'm going to use that, Bob. Oh, I love what you're doing. Oh, that's the coolest
And now you
thing
can
ever.
level up your boat.
Exactly. And then
Not because you're competing, but because now you have some
I'm
new
inspired.
inspirations.
Yeah, because I was curious
Yes.
and I was excited, and I was
Yeah.
so excited for my friend and
Yeah,
his
yeah.
experience, and just experiencing the experience with him instead of having my own experience and butting it up against his. So now we're having fun because, see,
Yeah.
that's when someone gets to join you. And that's what we all really want. Join me in my experience for a minute, would you?
Yeah.
Walk with me.
Yeah. Yeah. And so often someone's sharing a story and we take it away from them because we have to tell our story.
Right.
This happens. I've seen this happen so many times when it comes to anyone who's like had an ER visit. It's like someone's telling you that they went to the ER last night and here's what happened. And before you know it, everyone who's sitting there is like, oh my God, I remember when I went to the ER.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, oh gosh, can we just let this person have their moment and we can tell our story tomorrow? Like, leave it alone already. You had your moment. That happened 10 years ago.
Well,
like,
and you also don't have to prove in the and that comes back to sometimes not good enough.
Yeah.
Prove in the moment that, it's like you're like, oh, I went to Cirque du Soleil and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, I went to Cirque du Soleil also at the blah,
Yes.
blah. See, that's like, I need to prove to you that, well, I've done it too. In that moment, let's say if you're having let's say it was you're like celebrating your anniversary, it's a special thing. And that's different than if we're just chatting. But, like I'm taking away the moment by putting my moment in there instead of just allowing and going,
Allowing.
It doesn't matter. Like, I can always tell her later that I've gotten to Cirque du Soleil too and be like, you remember that time you were telling me about it? I too went to one. I really enjoyed it. But it's not, if I'm trying to do it now, then I've got some energy on it. Something's going on for me.
I'm kind of trying to like one up.
Yeah. And I'm feeling something. That means I might be feeling like, well, God, I'm good enough too. And see, that's what we're paying attention to. So, and I have felt that way before in my life, and I've swept it out. Like, well, I don't need to live that way. I don't need to feel that way. And my little girl, it was just my little girl who was feeling that way, and like
Right.
she needed to prove herself. So just giving her a lot of love, which brings me to nurturing. Nurturing ourselves is really important. We are going through huge transitions on really big levels, not to mention like the energetics in the sphere and like just what we're experiencing energetically with the solar flares and all these different things. We're experiencing transitions in our body, opportunities to upgrade our DNA are alive and well. And some of you might be focused on those aspects, but also just the deaths and surrenders we're talking about.
Right.
Releasing programming, releasing old victim patterns, and maybe physical deaths. Some of us are losing family members, losing pets, and we just want to send a really deep, heartfelt, compassionate breath and love to everyone who's losing or has lost someone at this time, and just that we love you and support you, and know that we all know that those that have left are great. It's those that are left behind and are yearning for our beautiful friends. So we just hold ourselves in that love and support that we are all together, no matter how far and wide. And to keep that perspective real wide as you walk down the path, remembering it's not just this, it's about the journey. It's not about a destination, and it's a continued evolution of expansion into greater harmony.
Yeah, and as you were sharing that, which was beautiful, the honoring of the emotions is really important through deaths, physical deaths, deaths of relationships, deaths of situations, to honor the emotions rather than maybe push them aside or say, oh, I shouldn't feel this way, or if I was more involved, I wouldn't feel this way. To simply honor whatever it is that comes up through those difficult moments, and that being said, to release the mind from staying and playing out a story that keeps you in the emotions of sadness or grief. I know that's something I continue to look at in my life. It's like, I think I might be perpetuating that anger by playing this story again and again and again and again. Okay, no, I don't want to do that. So that comes back to awareness. You recognize your emotions, you honor your emotions, and then if you feel like, you know what, I've been crying like for 3 hours now. What's in my head? What am I thinking about? Is it just emotions, or am I thinking myself deeper into these emotions?
So what comes up while you're talking, I was telling someone about CompuCamp recently, because it actually helped. I realized why I did it. I was in CompuCamp as a 5th grader. I was a kind of brilliant.
Never heard of that.
A computer camp.
Uh-huh.
And I loved all those I loved.
Yeah, it's fun.
I
Cool.
was a voracious child.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I was doing like Apple IIe programming. At 10, you do that's what you did, and it's like this whole thing. And I was making graphics, but simple programming. Line 10, if such and such, go to line 50.
Yeah.
If such and such skip. So they're loops. They're
Yes.
built loops. So this is, I realized I know why I went to that, because it's actually understanding the programming. So let's say you say, if I was more involved, which you just said, if somebody might say, if I was more involved, I would do blah, blah.
Yes.
It's a phrase. So the second we say the phrase, if blah, blah, then go to.
Right.
Now we've just inset the program that thinks that I'm not enough and I'm supposed to be something, which leads us to a false light path, actually, because the evolution, the actual truth is the opposite of that. If you're evolving, then you're going to do what we just talked about. Be aware, validate, trust, be willing to look at the self, be trusting and honest with yourself, which means actually the opposite. It means feeling everything and going through the mire. And sometimes it's not fun and it's muddy and it's dirty and blah, blah, blah. So the false light path is telling you it's all unicorns and roses, which there are unicorns and roses. We love unicorns and roses, but we can't bask in the unicorns and roses if we've got
all the time.
If we've got things festering in our heart. We can, if we are in unity. I could choose to stay in unicorns and roses myself, but maybe I'm going to help. It doesn't mean that, let's see, we could all the time if we're in that place ourselves, right? But if I still have something in myself that's making me fester, then I need to feel it. Yeah. I need to bring it up like we just talked about. And so I'm bypassing. If I don't deal with it, I'm not being evolved. Instead, I'm bypassing my feelings.
Or sweeping it under the rug. Yeah.
Right. So bringing everything to the light, and don't be afraid to do so, because it just creates more joy and more fun.
And nothing lasts anyway. So even in the darkest moments, they're only there for so long. Like I was saying about, being on the airplane with the fever. I knew there'd be a moment I wasn't there anymore. So that's okay. This too shall pass. It was a long 11 hours, but it did. It eventually passed. So
everything's temporal. It's all moving and changing. It's all moving. It's constant motion. Nothing is in standstill or stagnant. And so we really are. It's kind of like relish the chapter of wherever you're at, because it will end. And you will start a new one, guaranteed. So whatever you're experiencing, relish it. Whatever it is, fully experience it. Bring your awareness into it. Feel it, breathe it, taste it, ingest it, build it, and be grateful and look at everything right in front of you. Because if you're looking at everything right in front of you, you're going to get all the things. You're going to be playing your game, and you're going to be leveling up as you deal with your emotions, your feelings, and everything that's coming forward with authentic, honest, complete awareness in yourself, trusting source, and allowing.
And we have to go.
Yes.
Love you.
Love, love, love. Aloha.
See you next time, everybody. Aloha.